This week, all liberal rabbis, to be honest, not only liberal, and not only rabbis and cantors, we had what we call seminar or preparation for the high holidays. So we gathered together and just share our thoughts and reflections of what do we think this season of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur will be about. And one of the questions really, or comments, really struck me. And this rabbi said, how can I give any answer to this ever-changing world where I have no idea what's happening myself? Which is very honest and very, very, I thought, beautiful beginning of an important thought and conversation. And of course, the Judaism has many different faces, and this Judaism, liberal Judaism, offers one simple answer: Judaism should change with the world. We shouldn't stay firm and fixed. And in a way, the fact that we constantly change prepare people to the change in the outside world. So, and I think that there is something there. So, and this change in liberal Judaism, in a way, is represented in the core prayer, in the prayer Shema. And I don't know if you noticed that our version of Shema is slightly different. Not because we changed the words, but because we got rid of some parts, which is very interesting. So let's discuss about this. So for many of our members, the first line and the first paragraph of Shema, very well known. That's the one that we read. We stand emphasizing its importance. Say, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And then we follow it by the paragraph Ve'ahavta, which the one that we read in English today. And so in our synagogue, after Ve'ahavta passage, Shema concludes with Lema'an Tizkeru, usually sung by the choir or soloist. So the first line is the declaration of our faith, the starting point and the only unquestionable statement in Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is our God, the Eternal God is one. This line comes from the Torah, in fact, this week's Torah portion. So what does it mean to be Jewish? Well, according to this line, it is to believe that there is only one God and one source of everything, whether you consider this to be good or bad. There is one source for everything. So I always found it fascinating that the second line of Shema is not in the Torah. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed is an addition by later rabbis, which is, and as you can see, the first line, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, which follows Ve'ahavta. So, by the way, this is why sometimes you will notice that the second line of Shema, Baruch Shem Kevod, is whispered or sang quietly. Sometimes, not always. So, following Ve'ahavta paragraph, so Ve'ahavta is the continuation and the quote from the Torah. So it speaks about the love. It speaks about love. And that we are commanded to love. Ve'ahavta, it's a command form. It's not just, please love your God. No, it is a commandment. The same form of the verb as as all of the 10 commandments. So keep Shabbat, love your God. This is why it's perhaps the most difficult commandment in Judaism. How can you love something or someone you don't know, you've never seen, cannot hear from? So today, however, I would like to focus not on this part, but on the second paragraph of Shema. Not all liberal Jews know that there is another paragraph of Shema that we skip after Ve'ahavta and before Leman Tizkeru. And it can be found on our prayer book, but at the back, on the page 539. And did I include it? Yes, I did. If you will indeed obey the commandments which I enjoin on you this day, loving and serving the Eternal One, your God. And by the way, the form of this, if you surely listen, if you surely obey the commands. So it's a very strong verb again, but it's a condition. If you do this, the Eternal One, your God, with all your heart, then I will provide the rain. I will provide your land's needs, the early and the late rain in due season. You will gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. I will give you grass in your fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Take care not to be lured away to serve other gods and worship them. For then the Eternal One will be roused to anger against you and shut up the heavens so that there is no rain. And the ground doesn't yield its produce. And then you will quickly perish from the good land which the Eternal One is giving you. Therefore, impress these words on your heart and your soul. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let them be like fortress or between your eyes. Teach them to your children, speaking of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down, when you rise up. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house. Echoes, right, from the second paragraph, from the first paragraph. And on your gates, that you and your children may continue to live in the land that the Eternal One solemnly promised to your ancestors, as long as the heavens are above the earth. Isn't it beautiful? Right? So this is something that's at the same time very complicated. The relationship that this passage, complicated and beautiful, the relationship that this passage portrays between God and people is conditional. If you do what you're told, you will have good, healthy, and safe life, with rain, food, and a place to live. If you don't, you will lose everything. And do we really believe in this? And early liberal Jews said, well, it doesn't work like this. There are plenty of observant Jews who live not a healthy and good life and who suffer. They are righteous people who follow commandments but suffer. How can we believe in this? They say. And it is a conversation with one of our members that inspired this thought. But perhaps today we can find meaning in this passage and see it as a reference to climate change. If we behave morally towards the land, towards the earth, we will have rains in due season and gather our grain and fruits in its time. If we don't, the land will become uninhabitable and drive you out. It works. What once was seen as an inappropriate and outdated notion of God, who punishes you if you don't follow commandments, suddenly opens up in a new light. It's not about each individual, but humanity as a whole. If we, society, humanity, don't look after the earth, and if we don't listen to our modern day prophets, which I think they're climate scientists, we will have to face consequences in the same way how people had to face consequences when they didn't listen to the prophets in the past. So when I started to study Shema with commentators, I found a deeper meaning. All 3 paragraphs of Shema are considered as one prayer, even though it consists of 3 different quotes from Torah. So there must be a connection between them, commentators thought. After all, there must be a reason why they compiled this prayer. So according to Rashi, medieval French commentator, the main meaning of Shema is contained in its first paragraph. The first is always the most important. Ve'ahavta, and you shall love. You shall express love to something, to your God, with its main theme of care and teaching others and thinking of it constantly. So Rashi noticed that the first paragraph is about love, but the second is about fear. So it portrays fear as the main. If you don't do it, everything bad happened to you. Fear. So what is the connection between these 2 very different feelings and concepts for us? This is what Rashi writes. Right? 12th century. One should fulfill God's commands out of love. For one who acts of love is not like the one who acts out of fear. People who serve their master out of fear, if the master troubles them too much, they leave them and go away. So in other words, the main purpose of religion, and indeed the whole life, is not to create conditional relationships based on punishment and fear, but on mutual trust, on covenants, on an acceptance, which we call love. It is scary to read or watch the news about extreme heat in some parts of the world today. And especially having experienced it here last summer, when it was plus 40 for a couple of days. It's frightening to listen to experts who say that if we don't change our ways, this extreme heat will become a norm for our life, in our lifetime. Suddenly, the second paragraph of Shema becomes relevant. V'hayayim shamot ishmeu, if you will listen to these commandments, which I enjoin upon you this day. So no doubt that fear can be useful, no doubt. But fear can't take you long enough. Fear can start important changes in the world, but like in the Shema, when it comes to applying our principles to life, something positive should come first. We should always think about why we are doing it. Trust, kindness, our children, positive relationship with the world should always be our starting point when we begin actions, not fear. A world without fear is ignorant and arrogant. A world without love is unkind and hopeless. World without fear is the world without future. But the world without love is a world with no present. Shabbat Shalom.